Good morning, Southern Illinois. You are listening to Isn't It Queer on WDBX, FM 91.1, community radio serving the Southern Illinois region. This is Johnny, and this week we are happy to have an interview that I conducted with Kyle, a local community member who got into the news about a year and a half ago in a way that was a little bit traumatizing and a little bit revealing about the differences in the ways that the law and the university and the community responds to queer folks and it does to other folks. I am, of course, talking about the person who was charged with being the so-called Saluki Stroker, a victim of libs of TikTok who shared screen-captured images that have not been able to be reproduced or found anywhere else. That was the only evidence that was used to charge him with indecent exposure on a college campus and in the community. Now, in this interview, we are not focusing on what he allegedly did being legal, appropriate, or whatnot. That's another set of concerns for us to determine in another set of ways. Here, we are simply conversing about the experience that he had and the real lack of evidence that was actually provided for something to be a court case like this, a concern that we should all have about the way the law operates and about the ways that we use the legal system to harass and harm people. We're seeing that at a national level coming out of the Department of Justice, and unfortunately, it also happens at local levels as well. So, we're not here to condone certain kinds of behaviors that he was allegedly involved in. We are here to talk about the impacts of the ways that we turn so immediately to being judgy without actually finding out the evidence that matters. It is a thick show, and I think we should dive right in. Well, it is my pleasure today to get to speak with Kyle of Southern Illinois, Carbondale area. You may know Kyle by other names online. What are some of your favorite names that you had to go by online, Kyle?
I mean, we can't skip the Saluki Stroker.
Saluki Stroker, it definitely took on. And I have to say, I think they meant that to be an insult. Not really.
No, the only downside is it sounds like I do things with dogs, which are not my thing. But, it's a creative name. I really liked the Nutty Professor. That was one of my other ones. Although, the Slutty Professor was right there.
And they didn't go for it.
They didn't go for it.
Yeah.
But you also may know me as Damon if you see some of my spicy pages. But for now, we're just going with Kyle.
Let's go with Kyle. Kyle, this, of course, is a response to and finally something that seems, at least on the legal level, to have played out. That started all the way last year. Right? When last year?
It was middle of March last year, around the 12th.
Last year. Okay. So let's just back up and make sure that folks who are listening, in case they weren't following, what rock were you under? In case they weren't following, know what happened. What happened last year?
Yeah, so on that day, right, March 12th, day in infamy in my head, I came home a pretty normal day at work, right? I did my responsibilities as a professor. I get home, I'm eating dinner, and then I check my phone, and I'm like, seeing all these comments on my Blue Sky post that's like Indeed.com. And I'm like, that's weird. Why is somebody posting this? And then I check my messages and someone goes, hey, you're being targeted by libs of TikTok right now. Which was a moment of just sheer panic. You know that feeling like when you dissociate and you truly do leave your body? Because I know what libs of TikTok is. And I pull up their Twitter page and there it is, my face, my name, my position at the university with these screenshots claiming that I was masturbating on campus and posting it online. And so basically that happened, which immediately led to me getting placed on administrative leave by the university. And then unbeknownst to me, there ended up being a criminal investigation start at that same time. Which led to just a whole mess, and me eventually getting arrested and charged with 2 counts of public indecency based off of those allegations.
So let's fill in a couple of the statements here. One, professor at SIU. Let's talk about what that is. What are you a professor of, and what were you doing in your role as a professor?
Yeah, so I was a research assistant professor with the SIU School of Medicine, which for those of you who don't know, School of Medicine is actually part of Carbondale, even though the main campus is in Springfield. Now, my office, however, was down here in Carbondale, located at Pulliam.
Okay.
So my research was a health equities based portfolio. So I did things like rural harm reduction implementation, chemsex harm reduction, and then rural queer health. That's the type of stuff I studied, right? Very radical for a professor, especially in this day and age. But it meant that I just did research, right? I wrote grants, I wrote manuscripts, I held community advisory boards, and then for about 10% of my time, I did teaching, which was about 6 med students a year that I met virtually with to discuss like special topics like harm reduction.
So essentially grad students.
Oh, yeah. Absolute grad students. They were med school students. So all of them at least had a bachelor's degree.
So you're not working with freshmen. You're not working,
Not working with freshmen, not working with anybody underage. I don't want to work with underage kids in a like school environment.
And there are very few of them in a college campus, occasionally, but very few of them here.
Exactly.
Everybody is of age. I just always want to preface that out because a lot of folks are like, oh, professor working with students, it's dangerous. And it's like, first of all, you're in a role that's not working with students, and the students that you are working with are graduate students, advanced medical students here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fully adults.
Fully adults. Okay. So that's part of it. And then what is it exactly that they are, what is it that Libs of TikTok is so shocked about that you're engaged in?
That I was apparently recording videos of me masturbating on campus in a locked building and posting that on my Blue Sky. But when you actually go and look at the series of tweets, which there were quite a few about me, you notice something very peculiar, which is that in the main tweet, it's not my actions that are the highlight. It's the fact that I'm an LGBTQ professor doing LGBTQ research. Another tweet, I'm speaking out against the Trump administration. Oh no, that's the bad thing that he's doing. So the actions that they claimed, while they have their own basis to be judged on, right? Of right or wrong in a workplace environment, they're creating this moral panic over this professor, this queer, homo. Am I allowed to say the F slur on here?
We'll probably beep it just because we go out on FCC.
This F slur of a professor is doing these terrible things around kids. Look at this woke man.
That's and so they have their screenshots, and that's their primary evidence that they use to make this charge. Is there other evidence that they have or that the university has that they bring when they put you on leave and whatnot?
Okay, so this is the craziest part, Johnny. There's no other evidence. So even after my attorney, months down the road, got all the evidence from the prosecutor's office, the evidence is literally screenshots that have a censor bar over genitalia. That's it. The original screenshots uncensored aren't there. The police, a lot of people don't realize this, they searched my home. They showed up with 7 cops at my 500 square foot apartment.
Wow.
To search my house, and they took all my electronics at the time. My phone didn't have anything on it. My computer didn't have anything on it. My iCloud didn't have anything on it. My hard drives didn't have anything on it. There was no actual evidence that they had outside of those screenshots, which made this just a very difficult situation, especially if we're talking about being in Southern Illinois, where you're not going to get a fair trial here if you try to pursue this, right? That screenshot is basically enough for them to try to nail you with it.
Yeah, it's that part really sort of threw me a little bit when this happened. First of all, just to kind of put in context, so we're back in March in 2025, so a couple of months into the Trump administration. The Trump administration has already started withholding and doging and all that kind of stuff, grants to universities and whatnot. So universities are kind of panicking. And so I just don't think that you can't tell this story without adding in that the institutions are panicked about anything that draws negative attention. And Libs of TikTok knows this. They're not really targeting you. They're targeting the university. And the university is panicked because of the current administration, the stance that it is taking in its conservative way, and the fact that there's this very supportive of the current administration website that is notorious for its assaults on LGBTQ issues, rights, et cetera. And let's be clear here, it's not like they're just out there trying to target people who are doing things like this. They would be targeting us as a podcast because, God forbid, we actually talk positively about LGBTQ concerns in Southern Illinois.
Yeah, the majority of their posts. So there was a day last year, my mental health was not well. Let me just preface.
Oh my God, there's so much pressure on you.
I wanted to go through Libs of TikTok posts because I'm an academic, right? I'm a researcher at heart. And I should have brought it in today where I made a spreadsheet of the previous year's posts that they had made and broke it out into what their claim was, what the marginalized identity was that they were targeting, And that way I could like actually count it up. And it's like, wow, it's all queer people. It's all black people. It's all Muslims. Where are the white Christians? Where are the straight people?
Anybody on the Epstein files?
Nobody on the Epstein files, which is great because, you know, Chaya screamed and screamed and screamed about that through her Twitter account. Like, oh, we need to release these. And some people may remember that she met with Kash Patel last year and actually like got a little photo with a binder that said Epstein files on it, right? So cute, so good. Actual files come out. She doesn't say a word. She just doesn't.
And she hasn't been pressuring for more releases either.
No, she's not. She's not pressing for hearings. She's not pressing for anything.
She's a very unbiased source, isn't she?
She's actually the most trusted news source in this country. Yeah. And she's also kind of ugly.
Yeah, there's that. I just really, it was so over the top. Here's another part that really gets me. Like, you were tenured?
No, so that's a whole other issue. But
were you getting ready to go for tenure?
I actually had the option to switch to tenure track, and then when I tried, they told me, my department chair said, it's not worth it.
Okay. Was that before all this?
This was like 6 months before all this. He goes, it's not worth it. You don't need it.
Oh, interesting.
At the same time, like in the same sentence saying your career is on an upward trajectory, like you're not going to stop, like you're doing great, but also you don't need tenure track. Shocker.
There is actually, I understand with our union here, it is a kind of complicated process. You can't automatically go from NTT to tenure. You have to go through a series of hires and reviews and that kind of stuff. So that I can understand why he might have been like, oh, this is comcomplicated. But also...
Oh, it wasn't that it's complicated. It's that I wouldn't get any benefits from it, so I don't need it.
He lied. There are benefits. I'm sorry. He was, I think, trying to back away from what would have been a complicated process. But here's the thing. Tenured or not, we do have a union on the campus, and while if you're tenured, it doesn't guarantee your protection from various kinds of things that you might do that would violate tenure protections and whatnot. And I suppose one could arguably say this would do that. But there's a procedure, tenure track or otherwise, that we go through. Do you think that the university followed the appropriate procedures in terms of?
I don't.
You don't?
I really don't think they do. And I think on some ends they maybe tried to, but they didn't actually put the effort in there. So I was placed on administrative leave pending review, which does mean that like people should be contacting me in the next few days to talk about it, right? And at the same time, all this is happening, I tell the assistant to the chair in my department, I tell my department chair, and I tell the lead detective twice, hey, I think this is an attack and violence because of my orientation. Like, you need to take that seriously. None of that got reported. None of that got taken seriously, even though that's on body cam footage with the police. But the other thing is, they say that they called to talk to me about this. Your detectives took my freaking phone. Like, how am I supposed to, like, your detectives took my phone. How am I supposed to talk to you about this? Oh, you have my emergency contact, who is, at this time, my best friend, not married yet. He never got a call from you. Why didn't you call my emergency contact to reach me? Like, you know all this other stuff is happening, and yet you're not doing it.
Yeah.
So it's like we did just enough to say we followed these, but not really.
And they never gave you the opportunity to speak for yourself and understand like what's going on here. And
no, not at all. It was basically John Flack, my department chair, saying you're being placed on leave, and that was the last I heard.
And when did the police show up?
Next day.
Next day.
They called me that day. I said, I'm not talking to you. I don't have a lawyer yet. And then they showed up later that day with all the cops for a search warrant.
Yeah. And take all of your stuff. And yet they still don't find any additional evidence beyond the screenshots from a very biased conservative webpage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nothing else is there. The accounts don't exist. Like, nothing is there. And then, like I said, they did end up arresting me, and I had to sit in Jackson County for 2 days until that. And I just want to like add something in here too, because I have a lot of beef with SIU police, and I'm going to stop my grievances in a minute. But one of them was, let's see here, it would have been around the 24th of March. I had a prepaid phone because I didn't have one.
Right.
And I texted the detective, and I was like, hey, I would like to get my electronics back. Are they cleared to be released to me? He texted back, he goes, yeah, you can come pick those up at True Blood. I say, well, I'm not allowed on campus, right? Like, you guys have a no trespassing order against me, and my pretrial conditions are that I don't have contact with SIU or the campus. And he goes, well, I'm telling you to come here, so you're fine. And I say, okay. And I said, one more time, verify that I will not be arrested if I come on campus. He said, nope. Come to True Blood. Mind you, at this point in time, about 2 weeks out from everything happening, I'm not leaving my house without long sleeves, a hat, sunglasses. I'm trying to hide myself as much as possible. And I get to True Blood, and I walk down to where the police area is at. And I text him and I say, hey, I'm down here waiting. The detective comes down the stairs, turns the corner and goes, oh, nice to see you, Kyle. Hate to do this, but I'm going to have to arrest you for trespassing. And I felt the blood leave my face. I start tearing up and I'm like, no, got to stop it. And then he puts his hand on my shoulder and goes, oh, I was just joking. I thought that would be funny. And like, when are entrapment jokes funny?
Yeah, right.
Especially when you've already arrested someone. Like, you think an entrapment joke is acceptable right now? Yeah. Which I have a lot of thoughts on that detective that I can't share here because of previous employment, but like, he's not a good man. Yeah. Shocker, the police are not good people. But it's just, the whole process was insane. And honestly, if they didn't press legal charges, I would laugh about the whole situation because there's an absurdity to the whole situation that, like, if you can actually appreciate the absurdity in it, you could see it for what it is. But the legal charges just pushed everything over the edge, not just in terms of like what I had to deal with in my life, but also how the public responded as well. Yeah,
that was pretty brutal, and saw that happening pretty quickly. By the way, here on Isn't It Queer, we decided not to cover this on air. We have a webpage, and we wrote a piece that was there that was really sort of about, this is shocker news. We were aware of Libs of TikTok. We were also aware at the same time this is happening of all of these examples that Libs of TikTok and others weren't following of actual sexual abuse of minors that folks were being arrested for, indicted for, who happen to be MAGA or conservative or very anti-LGBTQ pastors or whatnot. Myriad, multiple ones. For all the assaults on like drag and that kind of stuff with purity culture, moral superiority, blah, 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 blah. The real truth was it was these conservatives that were actually, and not all of them probably, but were the ones being indicted with actual evidence of violation of consent, violations of minors, and real evidence ahead of them. I just want to clarify here. They had those screenshots. They did not, you were never caught. Nobody ever saw you and charged you for being in a space that you shouldn't be in, doing a thing that they thought you shouldn't be doing. Nobody was ever the victim.
I do want to thank you all for like putting that out there because like it was nice to know. Even in the moment, like I couldn't fully appreciate it when I was told like, hey, there's a message up, like they're supporting you in this way, and like really just like showcasing everything. It took a few months and I could fully appreciate what that meant at a time when everybody had the newest thing to jump on.
Yeah. It was. I watched it happening, and it was abusive. It was, and it's not just. I mean, it is abusive to you, and I know you paid consequences for it, psychologically, emotionally, socially, personally, financially, all of that, all of these ways in which you have been burdened by this. But I really want to stress, and I think you do too. This isn't just about you. It's about queer community, and it's not. Oh, you failed queer community. It's that you got to see. We all got to see the way the system jumps on us. And with much more outrage and without any kind of reflexivity about that. And that is the evidence of the ways in which our queer community is still needs pride, needs advocacy, and needs to be not just accepted, not just tolerated, but equality. We need equity with the rest of the community down here.
And we also need to be a little scary. Yeah. Can I just say that too?
Well, that's part of the promotion of a way. It's like, we got to.
We need to be scary. They should be scared of us. Yeah. And I think they are. And I think this situation too then put a spotlight on other members in the queer community. I know one of the local drag performers, like their picture was used in one of the Libs of TikTok tweets about, they allow, drag shows on campus. And like that, why do you care about that? These are adults. Yeah. Like these are freaking adults. And
our LGBTQ student organization, that's one of the oldest in a public university here. Yes, it sponsors our local drag community and has a drag show on campus for people who care about it and want to come see it. And they're very well attended, by the way.
Yeah. And I will say it was disappointing in like the queer community aspect to see this also highlight some of the failings that we have locally, but it's also like part of a larger thing, right? I have this like mindset that I go into things that like I can attack other queer people in private, but in public, like we stand together. And when I say attack them in private, I'm not talking about being vicious or anything, but like we can handle those problems internally. But like when they come for us, like that's when we link arms and we band together. And like you did not see that at all. Where it was just like this became a polarizing issue. Like had I just been a drag queen doing story time, I think the queer community would have been a little bit more cohesive here. But because it was something sexual in nature, that just really like highlighted that rift.
Unfortunately, even in queer community, kink shaming is real, right? And so we have a variety of different ways that we orient towards our sexuality, towards our being in the world. Some of them, some people are really judgy about. Some of them violate sort of cultural and social norms while not violating consent, or even in many cases violating the law. First of all, breaking the rules and breaking the rules a little bit, and the thrill that you get from breaking the rules is not unique to queer culture, y'all. Don't begin to believe that you don't engage in that kind of practice too. Yeah. And let's be clear here, the one that really got me when this was going down and the moral superiority that folks have is, I'm like, have you been to a college campus?
Right.
Like, I'm sorry, that these students that you're really worried about being threatened, they're probably doing worse stuff.
Freshman year over in Lawson, row behind me, a girl was giving a guy a blowjob in the middle of a lecture. Yeah. Yeah. Another time that same semester, a girl popped a beer in the middle of class and started drinking it. Like, the hypocrisy. Like, first of all, there's the hypocrisy in relationship politically and whatnot. The Tate brothers right now. Should we defend the Tate brothers? And I'm sorry, the charges against them and the evidence against them is really awful. But there's a lot of pressure, and the Trump administration has, allowed them into the country and may still keep them from being taken to England to face charges. Crazy, because that involves minors on a mass scale.
I know, and the evidence of it is so much stronger. But we're not going to talk about that, or we need to protect them, or that kind of thing.
No, those kids don't need protected.
Yeah. But the evidence against you was ridiculously small. And I'm sorry if you're a local person and you're just freaking out about this. I need you to take some time and think about, what have you done? And what if somebody decided to target you, and for things that you're just like, that's nothing. And if you want to say it's nothing in comparison to what Libs of TikTok had on you, it's still, it doesn't matter. If the people come after you, that's the inequality right there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's just like, again, like, match up. Because also when we talk about like how this impacted the queer community, like, I know many queer faculty didn't feel safe after this, right? Like, they don't know. There was nothing from the university of like, hey, here's what to do if you get targeted by one of these groups online. Because it's not like I'm the only academic that's been targeted by some alt-right group online. Like, this is a huge issue. Nothing about that. Nothing with School of Med to be like, hey, here's how you protect yourself as a provider, and here's what we're going to do to support you in that situation. Like, really let down by the university, even more so. Like, they had a real opportunity to do something brave, and instead the men that lead this university chose to be cowards and just capitulate to the Trump administration.
And, that's frustrating, right? That's wrong on so many levels. But here's one of the places, purely from a kind of cultural and even academic position, that drives me crazy about that. I know that you're working in health and medicine. Mm-hmm. I see the sort of conundrum that you face with this. On the one hand, given especially the work that you're having to do, you have to accept the world as it is. People do these things. People have addictions. People have practices that they engage in. We don't judge them for that. We try to help them in the best way that we can, reduce harm, and improve their conditions and improve their awareness and acknowledge the various vectors in their life that are pushing them to that. And you can't be judgy, you can't be, normalized values, all that kind of stuff. You have to focus on the do no harm. You have to focus on the helping people. Mm-hmm. So there's a kind of, not exactly objectivity, but just acceptance of, this is what we have to accept, and we're not going to shame you because we've got to help. That's what you're doing. And or in your case, researching and understanding so that we can help better. And then as a professor, as somebody who has your degree and you're working in a professional place, you have to, have your ethos, your credibility, and those kinds of things. You have to live up to a special moral standard and never break it. And I can, if you can't see how those two things can be in clashing, I think one of the things that your experience puts on display is those two things are having a kind of contradictory clash, and you have to negotiate it. And then you have a bunch of cowards, purity people, just ready to only assault, only to say this is wrong, and not willing to see, I think, the real tension that we have here. Are we going to treat this like it doesn't happen? It happens.
It does.
You're working with people who probably have had worse practices, and I put that worse in quotation marks because it's like however you want to evaluate it. That's an evaluation of it rather than here's the thing, how is it impacting you, how is it impacting others, how do we help? And by judging and shaming people, that's, especially in harm reduction, that doesn't help.
It doesn't do anything. Like, if Libs of TikTok also thought that this would like make me change my behavior, like, it did so in certain ways, but like, it's not going to change me being a big flaming homo at the end of the day. You know what I mean? And I think the other thing too, that kind of going along with this, and you're talking about like the ethos as a professor too, is that like, we're a bunch of queers. We are never going to be the perfect victims in these situations. Like, we are messy people, and everybody's mess looks a little different, but like, no matter how perfect you try to be, no matter how much of, I'm going to use that best little boy in the world that you are probably familiar with like gay men, especially in our group, like, you're never going to be this perfect best little boy, and they're always going to try to target you for it. And like, for me, that was true. Like, I was not a perfect victim, but like, there were still ways to do this without like harming more.
Well, and I think, when you say that we're all messy people, that's not just queer people, that's everybody.
Exactly.
And every professor has their mess, if you will.
Especially professors.
Especially professors, right? Like, I mean, you get this credibility, I've got a doctorate, all that kind of, I've got tenure, blah, blah, blah. You're still a human being. You still have all these things. And I think sometimes to me, when I see folks, especially when they jump really quickly into the judgment mode, immediately I'm like, you are doing this to deflect from your own anxiety about your own mess. Like, you get to judge this person now so that you can be morally superior and not have to have anybody pay attention to or be looking at the things that probably you would be uncomfortable about. It's not unrelated to the idea that the most homophobic people are probably a little bit queer themselves, but it's that notion that you're really, when you do that, this is just a caution out there to those who maybe want to respond to this podcast or in general to Kyle. This is what you're telling us about you. Just want to put that out there.
Yeah, and trust me, I still have all these Grindr messages of DL married men in the area trying to get with me in the past year because of who I am. So, like, yeah, be judgy if you want, but like, I got the screenshots. I got your pictures. Like, you want me to? Because I'll be real messy for you right now if you want.
Oh my goodness, that's talk about turning libs of TikToks.
That's like my dream is to like start the like progressive side of it. But it's like, I also know that technique doesn't work on them. Right. Like, they are going to be oblivious. Like, I grew up in a fundamental Baptist household, which is basically like Christian nationalism cult. Very weird environment to grow up in. So it's like, I know these tactics that Libs of TikTok uses because they were used on me all throughout my childhood to make me conform, to make me scared, to make me comply with certain things. And I also know that like trying to call those types of people out on their hypocrisy just doesn't work. Because they are so blinded by the hate and vitriol that like they don't actually have the capacity to do the internal work to address those things.
Yeah. I dare to hope. I mean, this is a thing that we've been kind of pulling on the show for a while here is this moral judgment, this own the libs, this attack, this I'm morally superior, this all that kind of stuff as a distraction hasn't really resulted in affordability, hasn't really resulted in a better economy to live in, hasn't really resulted in getting out of forever wars, hasn't really resulted in a safer, better America that is great again. It hasn't resulted in that. And at some point, I mean, this is a small example of that, but at some point, I think we just have to acknowledge and recognize that's all been distraction. This is not actually helping make things better. An actual progressive, accepting acknowledgement of who we are and our diversity, including our diversity of interests and ways in which we like to break the rules a little bit, or maybe rethinking the rules that we have and why we create them because we enjoy breaking them, might actually lead to a better world for all of us. Yep. But that's, I don't think we're there yet. I think there's still folks who are really clinging to the judgy and you get to be their target and their scapegoat.
And Libs of TikTok has a well-oiled machine for that. Like, they know exactly what to do to get their followers enraged. They know what to say, how to say it, how often to say it to get you thrown into just an absolute outrage over nothing. And I don't really know how we fix that, right? Like, I've got some ideas, but it also would involve me like losing a lot of income because we'd have to get rid of social media. But it's just a vile system that I hope to see in my lifetime like go away.
I do too. I sometimes I feel hopeful, like there's on the other side of all of this horrible there might be on the other side. Sometimes I'm just like this is another aspect of our messy humanity that we're going to continue to engage in this, and it's. We might take a break from it for a while. That'd be nice, but we'll come back with a vengeance. Unfortunately, that makes me sad.
We will, and it'll take some time and some strategy to do so.
You are listening to Isn't It Queer on WDBX, FM 91.1 community radio serving the Southern Illinois region. We're going to take a quick minute to take a break to station identify and hear one of our station's underwriters, and we'll be right back to our interview with Kyle.
Support for community radio on WDBX comes from the Carbondale Times newspaper, serving the community with news, sports, entertainment, and all things Carbondale since 1997. Pick up a copy of the Times each Friday for civic news, information on who's playing the Strip this weekend, an extensive list of upcoming community events, and all the latest on Carbondale Terrier and Saluki athletics. Best of all, it's free. And to keep up with the Times anytime, visit us online at carbondaletimes.com or look us up on Facebook. Want even more information? Give us a call at 549-2799. Thanks for reading, and remember, together we are Carbondale.
So I want to maybe lean into some consequences. Let's start personally.
Okay.
Like, this awful situation happened. What are some of the psychological, personal, financial, you name it, consequences that you have faced on the other side of this assault and a lack of defense from the institution that you work with?
Yeah. So the first one I will say is just like financially, I lost my job, right, in my career. And I actually want to clarify something that has not been clarified publicly, is that a few days after the search warrant, and it was actually the day before my arrest, I ended up resigning from the university. Now, everyone that I talked to about this afterwards, like, why didn't you call me first? You know not to do that. I was like, logically, yes, I know that. But like, I had reported a potential hate crime 4 times and had not been heard, right? Nobody was listening to me. And that was the same day that the Saluki Stroker site came out, which just put me in a place where essentially I sent a text resigning from my job and then drove to Inspiration Point to throw myself off the ledge. And luckily that's a very long drive. And like, if someone's suicidal, the last thing, like, actually probably the best thing they need is like time, right? Because it's such an immediate impulsive thing. So I drove down there, but by the time I got there, it was such a long drive that I was like, okay, this is stupid. Like, I'll just move forward and I'll figure it out. But I had already resigned at that point. But the financial aspect, right? Because I'm not going to get hired by a university anytime in the near future. Personally, when it comes to like interpersonal specific, a lot of my relationships didn't suffer as a result of this. I had such an amazing group of people surround me. Even if I didn't have my phone, even if I wasn't responding to messages, it was a really overwhelming amount of support from the people in my life. Although things like my family, I am officially no contact with them, which is also insane that it took me this long to do that, because I've been disowned by my family 3 previous times. And so it's just like a bit of freedom in that too, where it's like, oh, this happened and you guys literally live down the road from me and you aren't stopping by to check on me. Okay, I know where you stand. And like, great, stress is off me. I don't have to go pretend to be somebody I'm not at family dinner anymore.
Yeah.
Like, what a thing. Psychologically was where most of the impacts happened. So about 6 weeks after this, I was diagnosed with PTSD. I was really experiencing severe flashbacks and panic attacks, a lot of just like re-experiencing of the event. And a lot of that you may think like, oh, this is just a local news story, but like it wasn't. 3 million people saw this tweet.
Yeah.
And we're talking about 3 million people that are primed to hate this. Like, I was getting death threats that the SIU police ignored when I told them about. They said, tell me next time. I'm like, I literally just told you I got a death threat, but you're telling me to tell you next time. Okay, sure. I just did not feel safe in any capacity. I didn't feel safe going to the grocery store. I remember going out to eat for the first time. We went to El Paisano, which is like my favorite Mexican restaurant in the area. And I was so scared. I was like in the parking lot, like doing breathing exercises. I took some beta blockers before I went in there, like just worried. And I think we went to at like a really odd time at like 4 p.m. when it wasn't going to be busy. And it was like, okay, I can be proud of myself. Yay, I went to a restaurant. Or like, yay, I went to Walmart, because it was just such a small task that required everything out of me to do that. And I also had some places that were really safe for me to go to. Even though my dog's daycare is pretty different from me politically, they really made sure to tell me that like I was welcome there, I was safe, my dogs were still welcome there. My personal trainer, I kept going to him because I was no longer leaving the house. And so like I would go there weekly, and it was nice because it's a private studio, and he just made me feel safe, gave me something to do, gave me a way to move my body and move all of this around. But no, the psychological consequences are still with me today, even though I don't have a PTSD diagnosis anymore. Things like talking about it will sometimes cause that anxiety. So I made a TikTok the other day after my court date, and then I was like, God, should I take this down? Like, what if they find this? What if they start it? Like, what if Libs of TikTok makes a post about me again? Or when the DE came up with that follow-up story after my court date, I was at Buckwater with a couple of, one of your colleagues and some other people, and I saw that, and I just like felt that panic again. People are talking about me again. And I just have to like work through some of those psychological consequences as they come up. And luckily, you know, as time moves on, as I experience them more, I become desensitized to it. But it's rough. Like that is rough. But I would say those were like the main consequences. Now, legally, I do have a new misdemeanor on my record. That's a pretty big consequence too. I had to pay a $1,000 fine for reckless conduct. But that's another consequence. But other than that, like the psychological is what got me.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, you know, some of the things that you were able to do legally, right, is like you're not on probation.
Yep.
Outside of the time that you spend in Jackson County, you're not in jail. Are you? Did they put you on the list?
No. So that's actually a really big thing that my lawyer and I had talked about from the beginning. So with this being a misdemeanor first offense, it wasn't going to be a registry thing. If it had been a felony, yes, it would be. If there had been like a third one, yes, it would be. But that's what I told him that first day. I was like, if this is going to be a registry offense, we're taking it to trial.
Yeah.
Like, if that's the absolute worst outcome for me, and we will go to trial and fight this.
Good.
Otherwise, we're going to try to get it dropped or get it reduced.
Yeah, I know that some of the comments online have been mad about the fact that you're not on the list. And I just, you know, first of all, again. But second of all, folks, that list you might want to know some things about. One of them is indecent exposure that can get you on the list, can include things like peeing in an alley. If you really care about that registry and you want it to be concerned about it for the kind of harms that might cause another person, when you're really, quote unquote, liberal about what kinds of offenses go on it, then you kind of take away its power or something. So given what you were charged with and the evidence that they didn't have, I'm glad to hear that you're not on the list.
Yeah, me too. And that was like part of this whole experience too. When we talk about some of the mental or psychological things, was like, they put so much shame on me over queerness, over my sexuality, over just every little thing, where it's like, I got scared to even go to like a gay bar in Chicago the first time I went back out after all this. Cause you know, they're clothing optional in some of those. Right. They have back rooms, and I was like, oh God, am I allowed to do this? Like, you know, it's just every little bit of me was questioned because that shame just got thrown on me. But at the same time, I had to work with it. Like, I'm not someone who's into breaking consent, right? I'm not into exposing myself non-consensually to people. That is not sexy to me in any way, shape, or form. Like, it's one thing to want to break the rules. It's also very normal to just be like, yeah, I want to have sex in nature. Like, that's super hot. But like, involving other people in that non-consensually is not something I like. It does not turn me on. It does quite the opposite for me.
By the way, I want to fold in, because in case folks weren't paying attention, I think it's sort of buried in the conversation here. You were not married at the time that this stuff came down. You were in a relationship with somebody and maybe move in that direction. That relationship did not end as a result of this. That relationship actually went on, and you did get married.
Yeah, we call it our queer platonic marriage with sex on the side. That's what I call it, because it really is like my family, right?
You built a family.
And we had already talked about prior to this, like, hey, there may be a time when we need to get married because of the Trump administration. And like, we may want that legal protection, at least here in the state of Illinois, right? Sure. Like, and we were both single, and we both agreed upon that. And then all this happened, and he was obviously like by my side the whole time.
Yes, he was.
And then I also lost my health insurance, and my healthcare needs are not cheap. Definitely more than like what Medicaid would have taken care of. And so I was like, hey, like, do you want to go ahead and get married? I need to make sure that if something happened to me, if I had to check myself in to Mulberry for mental health reasons for an extended point in time, like, I needed somebody I could trust to have legal ownership, for lack of a better word, over me. And so, yeah, we got married, and yeah, it's just kind of a queer platonic relationship with sex on the side. I know that goes against the name, but it's the best way to describe it.
No. I think, you know, given the nature of the biological family and their response to you, the found family and the built family is really important, and you built that. And I think some folks who have their sort of moral judgments out there about so much better than this would probably anticipate that, of course, anybody that was in a relationship with you would get out of that. Deal with the cognitive dissonance of the person that's in a relationship with you has and does stand by you is with you, is happy to be with you, is in a relationship with you, whatever you want to describe it as, it is a relationship with him, and it is meaningful. And I think that should, for those, especially if you're in community and you're being a bit judgy, that should be a little bit of a red flag for you, that maybe you're jumping on things that a lot of other people in your life are not, in terms of that judgment.
And I will say this experience, the biggest lesson I got out of it, which is insane that this is it, is like unconditional love does exist. So prior to this, I had a breakup a couple years before, and the ex was always like, I unconditionally love you. And I'm like, that doesn't exist. Like, people don't unconditionally love. Like, I've never experienced that, not growing up. Everything was based on conditions. There was always something there. The unconditional love was kind of reserved for like Jesus, right? And then this happened. And I'm sitting there about 2 months later, and I go, oh my God, this is like what unconditional love actually is. It's like, we don't care about what they're saying about you. We don't care what you did or didn't actually do. Like, we are here to support you. We are here to protect you. We are here to make sure you are fed and your dogs are fed. Yeah. And that was such a defining moment for me early on, to just feel that and recognize it, to be able to go to a friend's office and just like break down sobbing for 20 minutes on his shoulder. Like, that's what love actually is. And that's what queer community is. Like, that's what building that found family looks like, is having those people. I will say I felt a little bit like Uncle Vic in Queer as Folk. He had his whole public indecency thing going on. And, Justin gets gay bashed early on in the first season. I'm like, God, I'm really living out my Queer as Folk life right now and learning all the lessons from it.
Thank God for some popular culture that helps you.
Truly. Actually, I did watch that show. I rewatched it about 2 weeks after all this happened, because I was like, I need queer media in my life right now. And so I watched that and then just started watching a bunch of RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yeah, good for you. Good. I'm glad it was there to help. That kind of thing. So I'm a little curious now about where now? What's happening now? Because yes, this particular platform, professionally or otherwise, has been taken away from you. But what's happening, and where do you see yourself going now with this? Because I feel like you have experientially, ethically, and morally all kinds of things to contribute to queer culture, to culture in general, that I hope somebody on Live TikTok is having a little moment of reflexivity and going, oh my God, what did we make?
I know. They truly did create a Damon, right? Like, good. And so that's my stage name, is Damon Hunter. So I do content creation now, like spicy content, right? And I chose the name Damon Hunter because Damon's a white trash name, and I grew up in an aluminum trailer. Like, it fits. But also there's that play on Damon, right there too. And like, y'all created a freaking beast when you did this. So I started doing content creation again end of May last year, about 2.5 months after everything. And it was a really scary time, because I'm like, oh God, they're going to find me again. But I'm not posting anything that I'm not, you know what I mean? Everything's done in protected spaces. And what I found was the response was kind of overwhelming. People love a badass rebel, and like, girls, I am a double Aquarius. I got you on this one. You need someone to revolutionize the gay content creation industry? You got me. So I have been doing like spicy content creation, which is its own beast to do. But I've gotten to meet some of the most amazing, sexy, wonderfully smelling men of my life. Got to bury my nose in some armpits that I have wanted to for a very long time, and explore my own sexuality in that regards, which has been awesome. And the other thing that I found out with the content creation is like, I actually have an authority with people, especially in regards to the topics of chemsex and public health, because I do have a PhD in this, right? So that's where I've started shifting some of my content over. I'm still doing all my spicy stuff, but kind of for more general masses now, doing chemsex harm reduction videos for people and like answering questions from people. And I'm hoping to build that out into more of like a coaching style business as well. And that's what I'm working on right now, that I'm hoping to launch in a couple months, of like, you don't have to be sober to do chemsex, right? Like, you can do it in a safer way, and like, I can teach you how to do that. So I do all this content on that, and I break down journal articles at a 6th grade reading level, so it's plain language for everybody. And like, let me make this accessible for you. And I was even on someone's podcast a couple weeks ago that should be coming out here soon, where I talk about my own chemsex experience, as well as like how harm reduction and chemsex work together, and like why we should be doing this, which brings up the purity culture again, because the second you bring up drugs and sex, people lose their freaking minds over it. So I'm
you
doing
really
that.
give consent if you're, hot?
And I'm like, well, no, you can't, but you also can't give consent at a bar after you've had a beer.
Right. Yeah. And what'd you do?
Yeah, exactly. And then I also do some like consulting on the side because I do have a really specific skill set for nonprofit development because that's who I worked with. That's where my grants were written. So it's just kind of an amalgamation of things right now as I'm figuring it out. And I've noticed this past week has been especially weird for me because the court case has been ongoing.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it's done.
It's done.
And you end up in this liminal space
Yeah.
and a transition. And I don't like transitions. I don't like them at all. And so it's like, where do I go? What do I do? But I will say that I'm, also working on an autoethnography right now about just like,
Smart. Good.
yeah, pulling especially from like Althusser and Butler's like hailing, right? Of like being called the town F slur. And then like being able to reclaim that. I was like, yeah, I'll be the porn star you want then. If that's what you think, like I will freaking do it and be the proud person behind it. Like, let me do it.
We started with this sort of being an assault on the idea of your credibility, but it sounds to me like the direction that you're going is really enhancing credibility and ethos here, that you are this thing that you would say takes away my ethos as a medical professional and as a research professional in academia. I think really kind of like shines a mirror on academia and says, okay, this is the expertise I bring from my training and my lived experience, and I am able to talk to communities that you are not.
Yeah, without all the bureaucracy.
Right, right. And in ways that are necessary and needed and providing information that's actually useful to people. And it's amazing to me. I mean, I'm not recommending that somebody go through the trauma that you've had to go through to have this experience and to have this credibility. But the credibility is strong, and the fact that you are turning it to these kinds of practices and sharing, not just beyond your own new platform, new professional career, but really being willing to share and help people in that continued ethos that you had in your professional career is beautiful, amazing. Thank you. I have nothing but gratitude for that, and that is awesome. I wish you didn't have to go through what you had to go through to get here, but at the end of the day, it's like, look what we made.
Yeah, like look what you did. Yeah. Like I hate to reference Taylor Swift here, but I always hated her song "Look What You Made Me Do." And then after this, I was like, no, I actually do get that. Like she wasn't blaming them. I was like, no, I get that whole album really speaks to me now. But I was like, no, I really get it because it's like you forced me into a corner. Like you literally backed me into a corner where it was lay down and die or make something out of it. And that's what you did. And one of the things that I've kept with me that my mentor up at UChicago said to me very early on, like I'd say probably within a week of this happening, was you should be proud of yourself, Kyle. This is a badge of honor that they were so threatened by you and your work that they had to destroy you. And I just kind of keep that in the back of my head that like, no, I was a threat to them. Like I was a threat to their agenda. And like, I will keep being a threat to their agenda. Like, I don't care. Like you will literally have to take me off the face of this earth to get me to stop. And I'm not going to. If anything, like my resolve for queerness has grown exponentially. Like I would have never even like been wearing a crop top, right, with my belly hanging out on it. But like here I am in one right now because it's like, yeah, like I'm gonna make the straight people uncomfortable in this town. Like sorry for any listeners, but I don't like straight people anymore. Like they are not my friends. I mean, there are certain ones, obviously, but like as a whole, straight culture does nothing for me. And like, thanks for pushing me further into my queerness, people. Yeah. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I will just say that I think that this position that you take and that you talk about is morally, ethically, spiritually, personally consistent in ways that Libs of TikTok has proven itself not to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so many of the ranters, the purity folks, et cetera, are not.
Oh my gosh, no, they aren't because they're so scared of getting called out because everybody's a freaking cop now these days and we just got to report everything that we see. It makes us uncomfortable and I got to report kink at Pride. Oh no, I saw someone in a pup mask. Oh no, I saw someone with a fist up. Oh, I'm like, you're at Folsom.
Yeah.
What do you expect?
Why were you there?
You're at Door Alley. What do you expect?
I'm always like, oh, Libs of TikTok found you in an adult site. Why were you there, Libs of TikTok?
Yeah, exactly.
Were you having fun? Tell us what else you were doing while you were looking at it before you decided to make your post.
Yeah, I think about it too. Like this past year, there was a teacher up in Minneapolis who was up for like Teacher of the Year, I think for either Minnesota or just in Minneapolis. And pictures that he had taken in like a leather BDSM situation prior to even being a teacher resurfaced, and he just got this vile alt-right attack of like, look at this queer professor doing BDSM photos, and it's like, what are you guys doing? Like, who's looking at that? Like, who's on this site? Like, who found it? Because he's not advertising it anywhere.
Yeah.
So like, how are y'all putting this together?
Yeah.
Because someone's in a closet.
Yeah. You don't really want folks doing that kind of work on you, do you?
No.
No. Yeah, they don't. And at the same time, that's part of the deflection practice that I think that they have. Yeah. And some folks might have been shocked about that. I don't like straight people, right? I want to be really clear about that it's not, straight people. It's this cis-het normativity and the willingness to, either through silence or more often and more problematically through your comments online, through the ways that you assert your moral certainty about certain things, when you participate in that, and when you participate in that to the degradation of people who are just being who they are and are not threatening other people with their identity, then that's the part that I think we really kind of are frustrated with. It's not unlike the folks who are like, I'm not racist. That's not enough, folks. You got to be anti-racist. You got to recognize the systemic racism in the culture that we live in, and do your best to recognize your privilege and push back against it if you have the privilege.
Exactly.
And I think in the same way with heteronormativity, with cis-het normativity in general, you gotta do that work. Otherwise, when something like this happens and you either stand back and don't comment, or you do comment, you're perpetuating the kind of violence against people for just being who they are. And Kyle, you were never perpetuating violence against other people.
No, that's the thing is I'm not a violent person like that at all. Like I will accidentally like read somebody, but that violence isn't there. Like my goal is to help people, and my goal is to like see our community thrive.
Yeah.
And see them move forward.
And not to rule people out of your help because they don't fit with what purity culture tells them they should be.
No, actually, I want the sluts by my side. Like, that's who I want.
People
like,
do.
I want the other sex workers by my side. I love my fellow sex workers. Like, they're disgusting, dirty perverts, and I love them for being themselves. Like, there's no reason to judge them for that.
So some people, because of the nature of the culture that we live in, especially some of our trans friends, are forced into that because they don't have other options. But plenty of other people choose it, not because they're bad people, but because they kind of question our judginess about our human condition and the way we are in the world. And I don't know, if it's not your scene, don't do it. You don't got to be part of it. Nobody's forcing you to do it. Like, that's not. We're not recruiting. We're not grooming the way that Lauren Boebert's son is. But we acknowledge and we accept that if that's where you want to go and you're not hurting somebody else, then do what you will.
Yeah, you're still community.
Yeah.
You're still family.
You're still here.
We still love you. It doesn't matter.
And you deserve care, and you deserve harm reduction, and you deserve knowledge and awareness and information that educated people like yourself can provide.
Yes, and you deserve protected public sex spaces, which we don't have enough of.
Yeah, that's a position that I think that you're kind of taking right now that I'm sure that there's some people out there who would really be like judgy about, oh my God. Can we just acknowledge that we have our culture right now does not allow those spaces, bulldozes unhoused people's camps, doesn't want any kind of clinic downtown that would help people with drug addictions and or especially if, oh my God, they did something like provide safe spaces for somebody to work with their addiction as they slowly get off of it. We can't have those things because we morally judge them and we're actually harming folks.
Yeah.
And what you, I think, are standing up for ethically is, if you don't want to be a part of this space, you don't got to be, but can we have these spaces? Can they exist?
Yeah, can we have them? And can we kind of like dictate how they run ourselves too and not be, ran by other people on the outside who don't understand it? Like, I actually don't expect a lot of straight people to understand the allure of like a gay campground. Yeah. Right? I don't.
It's sad they don't understand
and
that.
It's like, you don't understand. It's not even about the sex. It's about being able just to be around people and be in your body and not have to be sad about it and not feel judgy about your own body and be able to like look at another human in their truest form and being like, I still love you because you're you. Like, they don't understand that. But I also wouldn't expect like the cishet culture to understand protected sex spaces either, because their idea of it is a strip club where you can look but not touch, right? It's like everything's off limits. And they don't really understand.
Until they pay a certain amount of money and can touch.
I know, right?
But we don't talk about that.
Well, no, and then they just go to like the arcade next door so they can get a little something in the video rooms.
Yeah. straight people don't do that. That's totally just a queer thing.
Yeah, that's disgusting. I would never go to a bathhouse. Ew, no, don't.
Yeah, right. Like you wouldn't. Like, I'm sorry. We have a whole history of dramas, narratives, stories, etc. that suggested y'all are just as kinky as anybody else.
Yeah, and like maybe a little less consensual.
Yeah. Especially since you try to hold this mask of who you really are up to the rest of society, when behind that mask you're doing all kinds of things. Maybe on an island, maybe on a plane.
Maybe both.
Maybe both. Yeah, hard to know. And then you use your wealth and privilege and your control of the Justice Department to prevent anybody investigating or finding out that you did that.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like it's a likely thing.
Yeah. But we'll support him so that we can go after a Compass Point Public University research scholar.
Yeah, it's fun. It's, it's been some great lessons of this past year. Really got to learn a lot about myself. Good. And again, like my queer identity is at a place now where it actually could have never been here without something major happening. Because again, like I got to shed all expectations of what people thought about me. And there's a beauty in that. Like when everybody thinks the worst about you, I'm not confined to what anybody else thinks now. Yeah. Right? Like I don't have to play by your rules anymore. I can make up my own rules. And that was always an option, but I couldn't give myself that permission. And then when it was taken away from me, it's like, wow, there's a lot of freedom. There's so much freedom to be found.
I'm so glad that you found it. Is there anything that we haven't talked about today that you want to make sure that folks know about your experience with this?
No, I already made sure people know I don't like straight people. So
I want to be really clear about that.
We got that covered. Kyle Miller hates straight people. Make sure that's on the record. No, I think that was everything. Like, again, I just appreciate the opportunity to come here and give some insight into what this situation is like, and hopefully just like contextualize what it's like to be part of a national hate campaign rather than just the target of a local news story. Yeah. Because it's a really intense process that most people who go through stay silent. That's what they want. They want you to stay silent. And like, again, I'm a double Aquarius. Like I can't be quiet about this. I'm going to be quiet about it and then speak strategically. Yeah. And like, that's what I'm here to do. And so thank you for the opportunity to just like chat about it and also chat about some of my spicy content too, because I love showing my body off and getting paid for it. Like, what a rush.
Well, I am so happy that you are finding your voice, even more so than you had before, because you had it, and letting this really sort of inform you in ways that I think are helpful to all of us. And I always suspected that when we got beyond the sort of legal consequences and stuff, that's why we've been sort of holding off, is we didn't want to have this conversation in any way that would harm you legally. It has been good to hear what I always suspected was behind this, Kyle. You are a contributor to this community, and we really deeply appreciate your contributions. And not enough people, I think, tell you that in the hate campaign against you. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And don't forget to catch the Saluki Stroker at Kroger when he's buying his groceries.
He's still here. He ain't going nowhere. Y'all failed.
Still buying those eggplants over there.
Right. Love that emoji. Thank you so much, Kyle, for coming on the show.
All right, thank you.
Thank you again, Kyle, for the interview and taking the time to share with us a little bit of this story that I think has not gotten enough attention, as the media and the community has gotten hyper-focused on it. Well, you have been listening to Isn't It Queer on WDBX 91.1, community radio serving the Southern Illinois region. This has been Johnny. Heather will be back with us next week. Think Again, Please is coming up next, and we will see you again next week on the radio.